Thank you, Chair. You keep talking about the deaths, but you are ignoring the figures on the seriously injured. And the fact is, cycling is not getting safer in London. These are your figures, Mr. Mayor. In 2008, when you were first elected, on average, a cyclist could do over 400,000 cycle trips before being killed or seriously injured. In 2011, 3 years after your smoothing traffic flow and changing traffic lights and so on, the average cyclist could only make 364,000 trips before being killed or seriously injured. Cycling is not getting safer.
Well,
you've been asking me to apologise for 2 years for saying that. Now I'm going to ask you, I don't want an apology, but I think you should apologise to the families of the victims
I think you should apologise for your continual scaremongering.
Seriously injured
how
on the
often,
roads.
Jenny?
If you let Jenny Jones finish her question first, then you can come in. Assembly Member Jones.
Thank you. I'd like you to apologise to the families of people who've been killed and to the people who've been seriously injured on the roads because of your flawed and quite dangerous policies.
Well, I think it's very striking that you sat in this Assembly, to the best of my knowledge, for the 8... I think you were there.
Could you answer the question rather
I think you were there when cycle fatalities were running at a much higher rate. I don't believe that you protested then. I don't believe that you said anything then. I think you should apologise to Londoners for your inertia, your silence, and your refusal to stand up for cyclists.
I'd like to say, Mr. Mayor, that I was the first person to mention road safety in this chamber and cycling in this chamber, and I have worked hard all of my political career to make the roads safer. Your comments are outrageously incorrect, and you do now owe me an apology.
Well,
Let me get back to my original question. Will you apologise to the families of those who've been killed and to the people who've been seriously injured because you've made the roads more dangerous?
Well, I reject what you're saying. I think if you look at
these are your figures, Mr. Mayor. They're not my figures. They're your figures, TfL figures.
If you look at what's happening on the numbers of people being killed,
I'm not talking
roads,
just about people being killed.
Indeed,
I'm talking about the seriously injured as well.
If you look at what's happening on the number of people, even the number of people being injured, actually the rate is admittedly we have a larger number of people currently being injured, and I am concerned about that. But that is, I think, a function of the huge increase in the number of cyclists.
I'm talking average trips. That takes into account the extra numbers. All right, let's move on to the fact...
I think if you were being honest with Londoners, you would actually apologise for your continual scaremongering about cycling, and you pretend to be a fan of cycling, and you pretend to stick up for it. All you do, in my view, is try to terrify people about the state of our roads. Of course there is a risk involved in cycling.
He is being personally quite offensive
everybody
and
understands
inaccurate, Chair. Can you please ask
everybody
him
understands
to withdraw
that
his
there's a
remarks?
risk. What we've been
Can
doing
you ask him to withdraw his
is
remarks
very
of personal
considerably
nature?
reducing that.
Do that as your question.
Mr. Mayor, let me move you on to the fact that you've been blaming the victims. Now, back in October 2011, I asked you about the rising number of child and pedestrian casualties, because there are a lot of pedestrians dying and being seriously injured as well. I asked you about them, and you blamed handheld devices for the rise. You didn't have any evidence at that time, but you've had 2 years now, and you're still talking about headphones and so on being a danger. Where are the statistics? Do you have the figures from TfL on that
Well, okay, let me just say something about
Do you have the figures? Do you have the figures on how many of these collisions are caused by people wearing headphones? I asked you this 2 years ago. Do you have the figures?
If we do have any such data, I'd be happy to share it with you. But I think
then
it's important.
What are you basing your comments on?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm basing my comments on. No, I'm not blaming the victims. I do think in a mature society where it's perfectly obvious that accidents on the roads are caused by many factors, you should be able to, if I remember correctly, yesterday we had a long conversation on the radio which was mainly about what we were doing to stop lorries from turning left in such a way as to catch cyclists unawares, what we were doing to make cyclists more aware of lorries turning left. That was what the discussion was about, what we were doing to make lorries safer. I was then asked a throwaway question at the end about headphones, and I mentioned my view, which is that I think it is dangerous for cyclists to have headphones on whilst they cycle, and I think that in London traffic.
What about it being dangerous when cars go into advanced stop lines? And, you know, there are lots of factors. You can't pick on one factor.
I didn't pick on, but that's, if I may say, I mean...
Mr. Mayor, you are being very offensive
I think
today, and you're being blind to the causes of the
listening
problems.
to this would
Part of
say
them is your
that
policies.
it is entirely reasonable in the context of collisions between motorists, HGV drivers and cyclists. It's entirely reasonable of us to focus on what we can do to make HGVs safer. But I think people would also feel the conversation was inadequate if we didn't draw attention to the additional responsibility of cyclists, Jenny, to be sensible and to obey the rules of the road.
He's wasting my time. Could you please shut him up?
I'm going to let the Mayor continue.
If you seriously disagree with that, then I think that you need your head examined.
You blame victims. Can you stop being so offensive? What is the matter with you?
I'm so sorry.
What is the matter? Why are you being so personally rude? Why can't you stick to the topic?
Well, I don't intend to be personally rude, Jenny. If I've been personally rude to you, obviously I'm very sincerely apologetic. I just sometimes feel that you're not entirely civil to me.
I'm talking about your policies, not about your personality.
And, you know, I reserve the right to answer back in kind. And, you know, we are doing a huge amount to invest in the roads. We are doing a huge amount to make our transport system safer. What I don't think anybody in this city can conceivably ignore is the simultaneous, parallel, additional duty of cyclists to behave responsibly. Now, if you're saying that that duty does not exist, then I'd like you to assert that now. Are you saying that the cyclists have no such duty?
I'm here to ask the questions, not you. He's wasting my time.
Well, I think you're wasting everybody's time.
I think
in my view, Jenny.
I think that exchange has
wasted our time for quite long enough. It's high time you went off to the House of Lords, where you belong, and wasted their time.
You're just jealous.
On the contrary.
Assembly Member Biggs.